As you've probably guessed, no kids are perfect, and occasionally we do have some behavior or discipline issues with our kids at youth events. Overall, I have found them to be very receptive um, to following the community covenant and living in a Christian community. So I really feel like we have limited issues with this at diocesan youth events. However, when there are discipline issues, I really want those to be handled in the most Christ-like way possible. There's a great verse from 2 Timothy chapter 2 that says, "And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kindly to everyone, an apt teacher, patient, correcting opponents with gentleness." So when we enforce the rules, we want to be serious, but use a light touch. We want to do what we can to create mutual appreciation and respect. We want to strive to avoid giving the impression that we're all about the rules instead of relationships. So good things to do. Neutralize any kind of arguing. If a student tries to argue the rules with you, argue the bedtime or lights out, just stop and just say, I don't argue at youth events. Using statements like that gives the adult control of the situation and it rewards the behavior that you want to see. You can also use enforceable statements like, we'll eat lunch as soon as everybody's quiet so that we can pray. And then you just wait. And that usually works. The best thing we can do to help with discipline is to fix it before it even becomes an issue. Be proactive. Developing relationships with the youth immediately really helps with that. Knowing their names, affirming them, noticing them, praising the behavior that we want to see, praising them in public, and do any corrections in private or quietly. Using proximity control it works wonders for getting the behavior that we want to see. And proximity control is just like you are in the proximity of the students that you want to behave correctly. If there is a problem, if someone is being disruptive, you can use the 3 R's. So you're going to request that the camper stop the behavior. You're going to be nice, ask calmly and politely, "Hey, could you please stop talking during the presentation?" If that doesn't work, then you might reseat the student closer to you or away from the people that they're talking with. And if that doesn't work, then you might have the camper actually leave the room. If they are disrupting other people, just escort them to the hallway with an adult to watch them for a few minutes until they can join the group and be respectful. We can look at, we call them the 5 E's at camp training this summer. The first E is example. Students will follow our example rather than what we explicitly tell them to do. So if we expect them to not talk to their neighbor, then we shouldn't be talking to our neighbor. If we expect them to play get-to-know-you games, then we should play get-to-know-you games. If we expect them to treat us respectfully, then we should treat them respectfully and we should treat other adults respectfully. The second E is expectations. We need to set high expectations. If we set that tone ahead of time, the kids will know what to expect and what behavior is acceptable. We try to go over the community covenant first thing at every youth event so that they know exactly what the expectations are. The third E is education. Sometimes kids look like they're misbehaving and not doing what we want to do, and it may just be because they don't know how to do what we want them to do. So don't always assume that misbehavior is meant to be disrespectful or they're not listening. They may actually just not know what to do. The fourth is that we want to give experience to kids. We want to let them make mistakes and then let them experience the consequences of those actions. And the fifth thing is empathy. We want the kids to own the consequences, but we can actually feel legitimately bad for what's happened. So if they are acting up during an entire worship service, we can actually say, that is... It's really sad that you could not behave yourself during that worship service, especially because now you're going to have to stay and sweep the chapel while everyone else goes to the dance. And that is a bummer for them to miss that. And I would legitimately feel bad for them having to miss that and do all of that work. But it helps them show that we love them. Something that we can sort of get into a rut with as adults is trying to solve all the problems for our students. And we really don't have to do that. I mean, we want them to grow up to be their own self-sufficient, problem-solving individuals. And so we really want them to think through things and be able to fix things on their own. You shouldn't feel like you have to waste your energy trying to solve all the problems for a student. Hand it back to them. Ask them what they're going to do. And if they don't know, then you can give them some suggestions or choices to choose from. The more that we can share control and give students choices, the better success we'll have getting the behavior that we want and expect at a youth event. If we do give a student choices, we should make sure that if they pick either choice, it's going to be okay with us. We should make it easy for them and maybe only give them 2 options to pick from. If they don't decide immediately, like within about 10 seconds, then we should pick one for them. Some examples of choices that you might have to give at a youth event are things like, can you stay with the group and stop doing that? Or do you need to leave for a while and come back later when you can be nice? Are you going to take a shower before breakfast or before lights out tonight? Would you like to hear a story before bed, or would you like for all of us to pray together? Would you like to brush your teeth first or change into your pajamas first? Would you like me to turn the lights off now, or would you like to talk quietly until it's time for lights out? Would you like to clear the cups from the table, or would you like to clear the plates from the table? So all of those are choices that students can make, but that fit in with our value system and what we need to happen at youth events. When it's time to give consequences, we need to make sure we give consequences that are proportional to the student's behavior. It's not a punishment. It's a repayment of time or energy. And we need to make sure that we're empathetic when we're giving consequences. We don't want to give consequences out of anger or revenge. Whatever the consequences are, they shouldn't cause a problem for you or take away from your energy. And we don't want to lecture students when we give them consequences. Once the problem is finished, it shouldn't be talked about. It's over. So in that earlier example, if the student had to sweep the chapel, the whole time they were sweeping, we wouldn't be talking about, all the bad things they did again. We would just be having maybe a fun, enjoyable conversation with them. One of my big pet peeves, and something that can be hard to do at the end of a long weekend or a tiring week, but that's to not get visibly mad at our students. When we're trying to be an example of a loving Christian, yelling or threatening is not exactly a great way to go. So I ask people to try their best to not get visibly mad, to not yell, threaten, lecture, guilt, use sarcasm. We want to remain calm and discipline students with love. The advantages of that are that the student isn't distracted by our anger. The student can own the pain of the consequence rather than blaming the adult. The relationship between the student and the adult is maintained, and we model how to use empathy with others when we react to negative situations. Something that I ask all adults to do and to help the youth do at youth events is to resolve conflicts. Don't let it fester and build up inside of you. If you have a problem with someone or someone did something that you don't agree with, just address it and get it over with. There's a great passage from Matthew 18 that talks about, if a fellow believer hurts you, go and tell them. Work it out between the two of you. If he or she listens, then you've made a friend. And if he or she won't, then take another person with you to try and help mediate that. What this passage doesn't say is to get a bunch of people on your side before you go talk to the person or gossip about it to other staff members. Oh my gosh, I can't believe what Karen just did. What do you guys think about this? Don't do that. Just go and be humble and talk to the person about it directly. Most of the time, I think it's going to be a misunderstanding. I do my best at youth events to think the best of people. We're not malicious. We're not out to get one another. We're not trying to undermine one another. So if someone does something that I find offensive or that I don't approve of, they're probably not aware of what they've done. And so just pointing it out sometimes is enough. To just go and say, hey, it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way when you yelled at the kids about this, and that's not really the way I would handle things, and I just didn't know what was going on there. And the person might just be like, you're right, I'm really sorry, I just lost my temper temporarily, I really try not to do that, it won't happen again, and it's over, and it's done, and it's no big deal, and you've maintained that relationship with that other adult, and there's no tension and festering about things. So we want to try to be mediators, and we want to help the youth do the same thing.